What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Fast. Today, let's get started with Chael Sonnen says Colby Covington will be part of his The Ultimate Fighter 33 coaching staff. Sonnen coaches The Ultimate Fighter 33, opposite side his friend and podcast co-host Daniel Cormier. The season debuts May 27 and will feature men's flyweights and welterweights. Sonnen has coached The Ultimate Fighter on 2 occasions, but for his 3rd time, he's bringing along former interim UFC welterweight champion Colby Covington. He revealed his entire coaching staff. The head coach will be Clayton Hires. Clayton Hires is my coach. He's my mentor. He is not my assistant ever. He will be the boss. I will have on the jersey Clayton's team. It will consist of me. It will consist of Cowboy Steve. He's going to do what generally Mike Dolce would do in terms of helping these guys with their weight, their nutrition, their strength, and conditioning. I would never do an Ultimate Fighter without bringing the greatest grappler, Vinny Magalhaes, the last man to beat Gordon Ryan, I might add, and he beat Gordon easily. That's just the truth. Vinny never got credit for that. Last human being to defeat Gordon Ryan, and Colby Covington. Colby is going to come in. Sonnen opened up on Covington's impact in the training room. Colby is such a wonderful mentor to people. This is what people don't know about him. He does all of this on the side. He gives back. He goes to camps. He goes to college wrestling rooms. He goes to the training sessions, whatever it might be. He has mentored and coached many people. But Colby doesn't want people knowing that he's a nice guy, so I'm not going to ruin his gimmick. But he's going to do a fantastic job. Joe Rogan believes weight cutting was real reason Arman Tsarukyan pulled out of UFC 311. He believes that Tsarukyan was attempting to lose too much from his naturally bulkier frame and overdid it, leading to a pullout. There's this guy, Arman Tsarukyan, who was supposed to be fighting Islam Makhachev for the World Lightweight UFC title, but he hurt his back literally like the day before the weigh-ins. It's probably because of the severe weight cut. He cuts a lot of weight. He's very muscular. Michael Chandler opens up on mental turmoil after UFC 309 loss to Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler has spoken candidly about the mental struggles he faced following his UFC 309 defeat to Charles Oliveira. It's 100% the biggest letdown in my entire career. I have never been more confident that I was going to win a fight. This is a 400-page journal, and I journaled 300 pages. I was doing 6, 7, 8 pages a day sometimes. That journal will make you see how much I believed in myself. I believed that I was going to beat Charles Oliveira so much. Never in my entire life have I been this confident. I've been fighting for 15 years, doing hand-to-hand combat for 24 years, and this camp was probably the most dialed in I've ever been, and it has everything to do with how much I wrote in that journal, how much I believed in myself, and just thought it was going to be destiny. People made fun of me when I gave the roadmap. I'm going to beat Charles Oliveira and then fight Islam next. Or if Islam is not ready, I'll fight Conor next. If Conor's not ready, I'll fight Max Holloway for the BMF belt. That made a ton of sense to me, and I was going to go out there and I was going to beat Charles Oliveira. And you know, obviously it didn't happen. Dana White admits UFC could move on from Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Less than 2 months ago, UFC CEO Dana White made a rare on-the-record guarantee that Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall for the Unified Heavyweight Championship would take place in 2025. White first showed enormous interest in booking Jones versus Aspinall after Jon logged his first title defense against Stipe Miocic at UFC 309 in November. White stated on the night of UFC 309 that he would not put the division on hold forever though, and eventually a time would come where he would explore other options. He didn't set that timeline then, but when asked if the summer could be it, White reinforced that as realistic. 100%. If we don't get the fight done, we move on and we make another fight. But not last night, but the night before, I was up in my room with my people until like 6 in the morning. We're working on lots of stuff right now. Whether White and the UFC's work results in Jones versus Aspinall materializing remains to be seen. White has stated it has the potential to be the most significant fight in company history, but it appears an unprecedented price tag will have to be dished out to Jones. Negotiations are seemingly ongoing about what that payout will look like. There's no situation. It's the biggest fight we can make. Jon Jones isn't afraid of anybody, and Jon Jones will fight anybody. It's just a matter of getting the fight done now. That's our job. Michael Bisping on Israel Adesanya's future after latest loss. UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping, who also held the middleweight title in the past, praised Adesanya for everything he's done in his career, but it's likely that he's never going to climb back to the top of the mountain again. The biggest takeaway is that it's over. Israel Adesanya's reign as champion, I don't think will come again. I say that with the greatest of respect, and I truly mean that. an original, an incredible fighter, a legend of the sport, a future Hall of Famer, but his time at the top is done. It's tough to argue against Bisping's logic given Adesanya's 3-fight losing streak, coupled with the fact that he's turning 36 later this year and time waits for no one in this sport. While nothing is impossible, Bisping knows it would be incredibly difficult for Adesanya to put together the kind of run now that would eventually lead him back to UFC gold. The man is unique. Yes, we've seen great kickboxers, and we'll see more great kickboxers. But the people that have the flair, the charisma, did they put on the show that Israel Adesanya does? From the walkouts to the post-fight speeches that we saw when he beat Alex Pereira, and that gives you chills. I will never forget that. Everybody remembers watching that for the first time. Yeah, okay, the knockouts are memorable, they're incredible, they're amazing, right? When you combine it with everything else, I mean the man's an absolutely superstar. Michael Page interested in UK fight versus Leon Edwards after UFC Saudi Arabia win. Michael Page is ready for them all, but he does have his eye on a specific fight. Following his decision over Shara Magomedov in the co-main event of UFC Fight Night 250, the flashy striker made his call for one of the biggest British fights you can make in MMA today. Page showed his interest in fighting former UFC welterweight champion Leon Edwards in UK soil. The only one I talk about is Leon Edwards, but that's more so at a specific location. It's only for the UK. It's not because of him. I just think the fight would be great for my fans over in the UK. Although won the fight decisively despite being the underdog, against a heavier and much younger fighter, Page is not too happy with his showing. He's still looking for those highlight reel finishes that made him famous over at Bellator. I want to make a lot of noise, and I haven't gotten the highlight I've wanted yet. But if I can keep getting some exciting matchups, why not continue fighting? Sean Strickland opens up on Alex Pereira cornering him for UFC 312 title fight. Sean Strickland appreciates having Alex Pereira in his corner for UFC 312. Strickland challenges middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis in a title fight rematch, which headlines the February 8th event at Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney. Strickland asked Pereira if he could corner him, and the UFC light heavyweight champion happily obliged. He said he's down. He has a tough fight coming up against Ankalaev, and if he needs me for that, I'll be out to help with him. So it kind of goes mutual. Me and Ankalaev have this mutual respect, and Ankalaev is a great guy. But if Alex needs me after this fight, I'll be going to Connecticut to give him some work. Strickland admires Poatan's journey, which saw him go from poverty to a 2-division UFC champion. You've got to have respect for Alex. He came from literally nothing and has made a life for himself. Dana White pours cold water on Conor McGregor's early 2025 UFC return. Dana White recently pushed MMA fans into misery once more, with his words about Conor McGregor's return to the UFC. White contradicted his own revelation about McGregor's comeback to the octagon. The UFC boss changed his narrative regarding this issue in the latter half of 2024. White started saying that McGregor's UFC comeback would finally happen in the summer of 2025. However, the UFC boss contradicted his own words at the post-UFC Saudi Arabia press conference. Conor? I'm not sure when Conor will be back.